Hello and welcome back. Now admittedly it has been a while, but then as you know, before Christmas we went back to the UK for December, and obviously therefore nothing has happened modelling wise. So this one is a bit of a catch up because obviously there was the holiday, and since coming back my wife has had her hip operated on again, so I'm caring for her. And obviously because I'm doing that I don't get the opportunity to do this, but at the minute she's sort of finally managing to move around the house a bit, so that frees up a little bit of time, not a lot, but just enough time to do a quick catch up. As you know from the video, assuming you've watched it, we went to the Hornby Wonderworks and we bought a few little wagons here, and I'll show you those in a minute. And we've taken a delivery of the 66 and the IFAs, or whatever they are, the container flats from Hornby. So we'll take another look at those, and we've also got 3 more Mark 1s to go with Mallard, which is the Rains logo, it's not mine. And there may be a layout build involving her for her logos. So we'll see, possibly we'll see if I can persuade her genuinely to have a go at building a model railway. But that's in the future. So for now, let's have a look at these, and then at the end we're going to discuss what I hate about TT120. So bear with me, it's not all doom and gloom, trust me, honest. We'll show you what we got here. So what did we get? First off then, when we went to the Wonderworks, people have been saying that these brake vans are very hard to get, but there was a whole row of them on the shelf, and same with all of these wagons, including the vans, which we'll look at in a second, which is also supposedly difficult to get hold of, but they were all available, as was the grey brake van as well. So we have the Northeastern brake van and the North Navigation Collieries open wagon, little RCH open wagon. Now these are nice little wagons, and the detail on them is very good. You know, these things are really nicely made and really nicely detailed. There's a separate handrail on there, you know, and lots of underframe detail. Bearing in mind I'm not going to zoom in with a super duper lens. You know, you've got glazing in there. What more could you want? You know, some lovely printing. Very nice little wagon. And the same goes on for the others. You know, we've got the Northeastern van there with the large lettering, and the 12-ton BP tank wagon there, and the Northeastern wagon with the small writing on. They're all really nicely made, super duper detail on them. So we look at the Mark 1 carriages. You know, we've got flush glazing, really nice. You know, you've got the battery box, you've got the dynamos, you've got the brake rigging, vacuum cylinder, you know, plenty of underframe detail, more than you need. And the same on the bogies, you know, the BR1 type bogies with the plain bearing axle boxes. You know, you've got the bars on the windows, handrail details is picked out. Okay, they're not all separately fitted, but it's small, you know. The emergency lighting and all that, labels underneath, you know, it's brilliant. Everything is as you would hope. And with kinematic couplings, you do close up nicely. Not as nice as the magnetic couplings which Hornby supply with the Mark II. So as you can see, we now have 4 Mark 1s to go with Mallard. And now it brings us on to the Class 66. Now this thing is a lovely thing. Yeah, they're not perfect. There is a technical issue if you are running them with these wagons, but we'll mention that shortly. But again, the detail on this model is absolutely gorgeous. The printing is perfect. You know, you cannot complain about the quality of printing on this. It is just lovely, right down to the Highland Stag emblem on the cab side. Now the reason I bought this logo is because I drove this when I was at DB Schenker, or when I started EWS, and it's in my log of logos I've driven, so I've definitely driven 97. Not sure how far yet, I haven't gone back through all my journals to have a look, but you know, I thought, well, why not? There's not a lot else to buy at the minute, so we'll give this a go. Now this is the sound version, as you heard on the intro, and I cannot fault the detail on this logo. So anyway, so 45-foot containers, really nicely detailed, and printed again. So much printing on these things, and it's all spot on. Can't fault it. You know, and the wagon chassis here. You know, the underframe detail, the air reservoirs, the brake cylinders, 2 brake cylinders, obviously 1 for each bogie, and you know, it's cast metal. Nice little bogies, the kinematic couplings again to try and keep them close, and the wagons are closely coupled nicely. So we'll discuss the issue that we have with these wagons with the 66. As you can see, that is really close coupled. Now the issue we have here is on radius 2 curves, possibly slightly larger as well, radius 3 maybe, these have a habit of buffer locking, and this is because the couplings on the 66 are closer than we've seen on the other locos. In the 66 you get different buffer beams that you can fit without the slot for the coupling, so the coupling pocket has to be further back under the loco, under here, to allow the buffer beam to go on. This means the loco is closer than ideally you would want. So apparently Hornby have a fix. You can contact them for an alternative set of couplings to go on the 66, which we are assuming at this stage they may just be slightly longer. It's only about 0.5 millimetre. It's not a big difference, but it's enough. But other than that, it's really smooth running. I've run it in and it's all good. Almost forgot one other thing. We now have a sign for the layout. Warmington Riverside, a little pressed metal one, nicely printed. $10 Australian, about £5 this cost, from one of those cheap internet websites that chuck stuff out, but the quality is actually much better than I expected. Having seen someone else bought one, I thought I'll give it a go. You know, for $10 Australian, if it's rubbish, it's not a big loss, but it's actually surprisingly good. And a nice little car sign that we found in a shop in Hythe. So this brings us on to the bit where we're going to discuss the things I dislike about TT120. Now it might not be what you think. So first things, people when they do a review, they get zoomed right in, so close that you can see every little dimple in the paintwork and every little thing. You know, the sort of people we're talking about here, and complain of lack of detail. Now my eyes can't see in that gap, barely, even with the glasses on. There's very little I can see in there, even with the lights on. It's excellent. You know, the detail on this loco is superb, like all the other TT120 locos that we've seen so far. The coaches, the wagons, the detail is gorgeous. The thing I hate about TT120 number 2. TT120 is dead everywhere you go. TT120 is dead. On the forums, even on the TT forums, you get the question asked all the time, is TT120 dead? Hornby's not doing anything, you know. Hornby isn't committed to TT120. Hornby is. Hornby says it's an excellent seller, and I can see why. The models are superb. Yes, there are teething issues with some of them. The early motors in the 08s are a bit dodgy. Same with Mallard, but there's people out there willing to help, and you can get around these things with, in this case, coreless motors. I've got two from a Class 08, one for the Mallard, not expensive and should be dead easy to fit. The 08s I'll be doing on a video because I've also got Stay Alive and sound chip and speaker to go in, so they'll be done because I don't do this HM7000 app stuff. I just use my normal ECOS on normal DCC, so for me I'm not worried about all the issues that people have with HM7000. Sorry, I can't help you guys in that respect. So that's number 2. It's not dead. Hornby are committed. We've got coming out later in the year the Class 37s, which have just been put up for pre-order. Admittedly, they're not expected till November. Could go forwards, could go backwards. I'm going to itch for backwards, but you know, hopefully before next Christmas they'll be here. And the new container wagons, the KFAs I think it is. I've ordered all 3 of those. 2 Sound 37s. They're coming later this year. There's stuff in the pipeline, it's still coming. And obviously we got Revolution trains with their J&A wagons, which I've ordered 5 because I've got a 66. Although it's not the era that I model as such, I'm going to play with what I've got until I can get more models of the era I actually want. Issue with TT120 number 3. It's so expensive. Oh my god. People keep comparing these locos. Double OK's loco, you know, it's like nearly twice as big. You know, why is this so expensive? It's not. It's not overly expensive for what you get. You just got to really look at what you're getting. Now, the research cost for producing one of these is exactly the same as you would for a 00 model. And that is the majority of your costs for producing a model, is the research, going through production, setting it all up, tooling and all that. That's an expensive part. The actual difference in material cost between building this model here and a 00 gauge version is pence overall. So the difference is pence, and that's why a TT120 loco is going to be a similar price. You know, N gauge was always considered expensive, but they're all the same amount of work to produce the models. You know, this TT loco here, I've got cab lights, I've got tail lights, I've got headlights, I've got upper marker lights, day or night headlight. I can turn the marker lights off, I can turn the tail lights off. I've got all these things built into this little model here. Exactly the same as a 00 model. The only difference is material cost, and that's not the expensive part. Okay, we'll go with number 4. Thing I dislike about TT, people going on all the time, there's nothing in it for me, they don't do anything I want. Now, Hornby can't produce everything. Take a back seat. I don't particularly want to model modern era in TT, you know, the 1980s, end of the 80s. Sectorisation is my main era, but in TT I wanted a model BR Blue mid to late 70s, but then the Class 50 came out, that was large logo, so that's post refurbishment, so that's now taken me 85, so I'm heading back into my sectorisation era, and that's fine. You know, I like large logo, blue grey coaches. There's potential for a few other freight liveries and that, but I really want to do my era of BR Blue. Now, as it's not available, I can either sit down and wait for someone to bring out some BR Blue stuff, which could be a while yet, admittedly, or I could just enjoy what is coming out. Now, what is coming out currently is the Class 66s. It's out of my era, but I'm just going to play with it for now. I can sell it on later on, and I'm sure there'll be people that come into this hobby and scale later on that are going to want the model, and I'm going to be able to sell it on. It's no drama, so I can play with what's available now and sell it on. Again, Class 37s, we've seen 3 of them now being released. BR green, large logo blue. Oh, that's close enough for me. I'll have the large logo blue one. And EWS. Well, I'll get the EWS version as well, because I used to work for EWS and I've driven a couple of 37s in EWS livery, and I can play again later on. I can always sell it on after I've had my fun and enjoy the hobby for what it is. And finally, number 5 we'll go with. The thing I hate about TT120 is it's so addictively nice. I keep buying it. You know, I've got up in my cupboard up here, I've got 3 full HST sets. That's 2 blue and grey and 1 intercity swallow livery. 4 sets, 8 car executive intercity swallow and 2 7 car sets in blue and grey. I've got a load of Mark II coaches, a few wagons, plus what's on this bench here, and all I've got at the minute is this little bit of Upper Wilmington, or I can track out, put it on a kitchen counter and play on the counter. Well, it is tabletop, which is how I've run in the 66. I've just been out there running around for an hour and stuck it with the wagons on and gone round and round and round and round and round. So that's 5 things I don't like about TT. And none of it is TT's fault, and none of it is Hornby's fault. It's a great scale, just that little bit bigger than N, and the detail is superb, and the cost isn't that bad. That's my thoughts anyway. Obviously other people are going to have their own thoughts, but that's my thoughts, even here in Australia, having to ship it halfway around the world. It's great stuff, and I'm going to continue with this scale over my O gauge. I don't think I've got much more O gauge I can buy to fit in on my layout, and other than a couple of shelf queens in 00, there's not a lot else I wish to purchase in 00. I can't afford the SEP. I want a refurbished SEP, but that is getting a bit expensive, especially when you convert it over to the dollars. We're talking nearly $1,000 once you factor in the shipping costs. But that's not your problem, and that's not TT's problem. TT's problem is it's just too good, too nice. I'm going to carry on with this, but the next video will be carrying on with this. So see you then. Bye for now.